There's another collection of writings of Lao Tzu, and it's called the Hua Hu Ching, which means it's the unknown teachings of Lao Tzu. And this is one of the things that he says in verse 59 and 60. He says, if you wish to become a divine, immortal angel, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. This is the only way to gain the attention of the immortals who teach the methods of energy enhancement and integration that are necessary to reach the divine realm. The divine realm is the realm of meaning. When you are totally on purpose in your life and you're getting the guidance of the divine realm. These angelic teachers cannot be sought out, Lao Tzu says. You can't find them. You can't ask for them. It is they who will seek out the student. When you succeed in connecting your energy with the divine realm, that is, live at a God consciousness way as God lives, through high awareness and the practice of undiscriminating virtue, the transmission of the ultimate subtle truths will follow. And then he says in verse 60, the mystical techniques for achieving immortality are revealed only to those who have dissolved all ties to the gross worldly realm of duality, conflict, and dogma. As long as your shallow worldly ambitions exist, the door will not open. As long as your shallow worldly ambitions exist, the door will not open. So then I go back to the story that I'm telling you about Assisi and this magical miracle thing that I thought happened to me because I'm just a chosen one. I'm a chosen guy with the big ego, and like, of course St. Francis is going to pick me. Who else would he pick? All right? And so on. And I really thought that for the last 5 minutes, just not like I thought I'm deserving of something special, but I just associated, using the intellect, I just associated all of the things that I was doing with, of course, this is a natural unfolding, and I'm obviously above all of these other people who don't, so all of that was going on in my head, all right? And then it hit me when I read this, and when I wrote Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, that the way that you make the transition to open the door to the divine realm, which is the realm of purpose, it's the realm of meaning, it's the realm of living your dharma, fulfilling your destiny. What you signed up for is by living the undiscriminating virtue that he's talking about. So what are the virtues? And what was I doing in that moment? Now, in the moment that John said, what are we going to do? I didn't think of myself at all. It never occurred to me, nothing else occurred to me other than, whatever it is that's going on in you, forget it, just help this guy out. You've got to help him out, and you're right next to him. You're the only one that can. And I forgot totally about myself. I let go of all of what might be involved with me, that I might hurt my leg, that that's a long way to carry somebody who weighs more than I do, that it's, I didn't do any of that. I just immersed myself in total service to this person, which is what God realization is all about. I mean, the poet Hafiz has this wonderful line. He said, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. He said, just think what a love like that can do. It lights up the whole world. So it's like, it's not so I was, in the moment that I lived the virtues, was really 100% living the virtue, I understood what is meant when, this idea that the laws of the material world do not apply in the presence of the God realized. The laws of the material world don't apply in the presence of God, in the presence of God realization.
And a woman came to Nisargadatta, who had given up all of his worldly possessions, who was a school teacher from England, who had cancer, and she was pleading with him to listen to her case. And she got very impatient with him and said to him, I have so many problems. And he said, you do not have any problems. And she said, how can you say that? He said, because your body has problems, but you don't have any problems. And she said, but I suffer. And as you heard me say earlier, he said, you do not suffer. Only the person you imagine yourself to be suffers. And then he gave what I consider the most powerful affirmation I've ever heard, which is I use every day. I have it written in my car and on the mirror where I shave in the morning. She said to him, you mean to tell me that you don't have any problems and you don't suffer? And he said to her, ma'am, he said, in my world, nothing ever goes wrong. Now there's an affirmation. In my world, nothing ever goes wrong. I don't live in the world of the body and the ego. I live in the world of the spirit. And I am the witness to all of the rest of this. And I'm not attached to the outcome. I had a patient coming to me when I was a therapist years ago in New York, out on the island, when I was teaching at the university. And her name is Noreen. And Noreen was a chronic depressive, and she came to me depressed and was told that this was a guy who wasn't going to sit around and be your friend, and you weren't going to purchase a friend. We're going to see about changing things, or we're not going to be in therapy together. And she said, I asked her, I said, how long have you been depressed? And she said, I've been depressed for years and years. I said, is there any ever time when you are not depressed? She said, I am always depressed. So I was looking for an entry point. I said, is there any organ in your body, perhaps? Any part of your body that isn't depressed? She said, every organ in my body is depressed. I said, well, let's look at your dreams. When you sleep at night, she said, I go to bed depressed, I take Prozac, I wake up depressed, I eat depressed. There is no part of me that is not depressed. She was really into her depression. And she was. I mean, she looked it and acted it, and she wasn't kidding, and it was serious. I don't make light of it. And I said to her, Noreen, I asked her the key question. I said, tell me, I said, have you been noticing your depression more lately? And she said, yes, I have. That's why I've come to you, because the other therapy hasn't worked, and I really thought maybe you could offer me some hope. So I said, so you have been noticing it more lately? She said, yes. I said, well, then tell me, is the noticer depressed? And she was stumped. And that's where we began. With the noticer, who cannot be depressed. The noticer just is the compassionate witness. That's where you have to go in your life. You want to rid yourself of pain? You want to rid yourself of struggle, of suffering? You begin to observe it and not attach yourself to it. You watch your body do what it has to do. And you can see it. As you become the compassionate witness and you understand quantum mechanics, you begin to see that where you place your attention, the observer, that which you observe, and keep on observing, that's what you begin to manifest. And the physical world becomes a reflection of how you witness. The observer himself or herself literally affects the outcome. And you can truly learn to manifest and control your coincidences, like us meeting, like my former department head showing up, like all of you who've had these kinds of things happen to you in your life. You can begin through the process of witnessing to see it begin to manifest. If you abandon the doubt, if you erase the past, if you get rid of all the labels, you have got to let go of your Italianness, your Jewishness, your maleness, your conservativeness, your Arizonanness, your blackness, your whiteness, your oldness, your youngness. You are none of those things. You are a spiritual being, divine and eternal. And all the emphasis that you place on this physical world and the physical things that divide us will keep you back in the ego. There are no white people. There are no black people. There are no women. There are no men. As Gandhi said, in heaven there is no religion. There's nothing to divide any of us. When you see yourself as the witness, you eliminate all of those things. And once you've been able to cultivate the witness, you can begin to observe your body. You can observe your thoughts. You can see that you're not your thoughts. You are that person who is thinking them. And you can literally place your attention on which ones you want and which ones you don't want.
Singing my song. The major change that's taken place for me in this manifestation of my inspired desires has been the awareness of my own capacity for activating the creative force to work with me. Today, as I live consciously in spirit, I feel as if I'm more and more able to be an activator of this divine synchronistic force and have it work with me rather than to me. I view these mystical moments as holy instants when my ego is suspended and spirit, in conjunction with my own divine desires, has become the teacher. As my sense of inspiration grows within me, I find myself wanting to do more for others and focusing less upon myself. What I desire is realized through the paradoxical means of desiring it for others even more than I want it for myself. By reaching out in this way and deliberately looking for ways to inspire others, I feel closer and closer to spirit, and ironically, I sense that more of what I desire seems to be flowing back to me as a result of this sharing. At this point in my life, I feel that staying in this glorious state of inspiration practically requires me to avoid condemning others. I look at the behavior of others, even those whose actions are anathema to an inspired world, and I send them love. I know deep within me that declaring war on the problems of violence, poverty, cancer, AIDS, and drug addiction isn't the solution. I'm uninterested in increasing these problems with violent, angry, or hateful thoughts or behavior. I know that I can't get sick enough to make one person better, or angry enough to end violence anywhere. I also sense very strongly that by staying in spirit and bringing a higher mental energy to the presence of these lower, ego-based energies, I'm a force for change, one that helps move the world closer to spirit. I anticipate a planet at peace, along with health, abundance, and love in my life and in the lives of all others. And I know that it's moving in this direction. I know that for every act of apparent evil, there are a million acts of kindness. That's where I place my attention, and that's what I choose to give away. By doing so, for the larger percentage of my days, my reward is a feeling of being in harmony with purpose. I watch the mynah birds sing every morning, and I know they're not doing it because they have the answers to all of life's problems. They have a song inside of them that they obviously feel compelled to let come out. I too have a song to sing, and by staying in spirit, I'm able to sing it all day, every day. I know that the answer to what should I be doing is to see the word yes on my inner screen. Yes, I am listening. Yes, I am paying attention. And most important, yes, I am willing. I notice that those around me who feel uninspired or unwilling to say yes to the feelings at the core of their being. By doing so, to every hunch, burning desire, and thought that won't go away, I feel the hand of a guiding spirit that's with me simply because I've been willing to say yes. By saying yes to life, I see the world and all of its inhabitants in a completely new way. As a result of being more and more inspired, I see spirit in virtually everyone I meet. And I feel much more connected to everyone as a result of sensing their spirit instead of noticing all of the accumulations of success that they've amassed. I call this seeing with my mind and not my eyes. It now seems that my identity is associated with experiences that are not exclusively of this world. And I love what my mind sees. Possibilities and openings for miracles. It looks past the limitations of my eyes, and it knows that we're all one in an infinite world. My mind no longer views death as something to fear. Rather, it lives in an infinite place, and it is able to step back from this corporeal world and be an observer. Adequately conveying how I feel when I'm inspired is probably impossible. What I so sincerely want to share here is that the feeling of being completely in harmony with our source generates miracles everywhere. I have the delicious, spine-tingling sensation of bliss as I observe and interact in this world from the wondrous vista of being inspired. These words from A Course in Miracles ring true for me. All that must be recognized, however, is that birth was not the beginning and death is not the end. This is the knowing that I have from this infinite in-spirit perspective. There are no conflicts. All is as it should be. The things I wish to improve aren't going to be accomplished by fighting, but by placing my attention on staying connected to Spirit. In 1 Corinthians, St. Paul says, "The very fact that you have lawsuits among you means you have been completely defeated already." As I live from a place of inspiration, I see that conflict is no longer possible for me, and I understand what Paul was attempting to say to the people of Corinth in that letter. I will not be defeated. I can't. Because for me, there's no they any longer. There's only us. I've turned my mind to Spirit. I know that God created me to be like Him, and I must be what I came from. This idea, more than any other, inspires me beyond what I can share here in this program. It's my intention to continue to stay inspired and live what my mind knows rather than only what my eyes see. And my mind knows that we're all in a universe that has a creative, organizing intelligence supporting it. I know that it flows through me, and God willing, I'll stay in spirit and assist you to live that life of inspiration that you came here to live. There can be no greater blessing. I send you love. I surround you with light. And I invite you to live with me in spirit. God bless you. Namaste.
In a wonderful, wonderful novel called Shibumi, which I recommend to you if you haven't read it. A man who operates at this high level, Nikolai, is in a cell, and he's been kept there for 3 years and is in solitary confinement because he's trying to be controlled by the authorities in Japan. And when he is taken out, this American knocks on his prison cell after 3 years of having total solitary confinement and says to him, "We have an assignment for you. We have something that we would like you to do for us, for the CIA. And you better take it because opportunity doesn't knock twice. What we're going to do is offer you your freedom." And he said to him something very significant. He said, "What you offer me is my liberty. I have my freedom. I've always had my freedom. You can never take that away from me. And these are my conditions for doing what I want. And I'm going back to my cell, and unless you're willing to meet them," he said, "I'd appreciate it when you come back tomorrow and knock on my cell that you knock twice so that I don't confuse you with opportunity." It's the kind of line that you always want to have, and you think of it 4 days later. But when you're writing a novel, you can put it right in there just like that. But that the corner of freedom that people have is the ability, and this is what he was saying, to use his mind in the most creative and personal way that he wanted to. And in place of knowledge, people in our culture somehow have achievement. It's almost an irony when we look at, for example, what do we mean by a college education? See, college education, we purchase credits. I mean, you do it, and you put down money, and you buy a certain number of credits, and then you go through a certain number of rules. And it has nothing to do with knowledge. None of it has anything to do with knowledge, or what you're learning, what it means to you, how it applies in your life. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, how do I fit into this system? How do I please that authority figure up there called a teacher? And what do I do? And how many pages do I write? And when is it due? And how many books do I have to read? It's a system that has nothing to do with knowledge. And yet we somehow confuse it. We think that you can purchase knowledge. And you can't. Obviously.
But there's another kind of freedom other than just the freedom to express yourself and the freedom to vote and things like that. And that's the freedom that comes from knowing how to really enjoy your own life and all that your life is. And this is a freedom that can never be taken away from you, even in the worst of circumstances, even by putting you into a jail cell. You can't take that away. It's the knowing, that's a key word. It's the knowing of having control over your own mind. Knowing that. It isn't just that you read it or you listen to me say it or whatever, but that you develop this powerful awareness that I truly am in charge of all that I am as a human being. And like once you get that knowingness, that it isn't circumstances and that it isn't the terrible things in life or the things that we've judged to be terrible that make our lives what they are or what they are not. It is how we process them. It is thinking that makes it so, as Shakespeare said. Then freedom is yours. It's yours to use at any time that you want to use it. Happiness and enjoyment are not things that you get out of life. They're not rewards that come to you. They're not something that is going to be the result of you behaving in a certain way or living a certain lifestyle. Happiness and enjoyment are inner processes, and they are what you bring to life. They are yours, and yours alone, to have at any time that you want to have them. And no matter what the circumstance that you can think of, no matter how bad it may seem for you, you always have this corner of freedom to choose to process it the way that you want to. And, I mean, I've seen examples of this kind of thing. I mean, I've seen the extreme examples of people who have put their minds into a place where they're capable of having a pin put right through their arm and not experience any pain. I've seen hundreds of people walk across hot burning coals and experience no burning of the flesh whatsoever. And you think to yourself, well, wait a minute, when flesh is put to burning coals, you get burnt flesh. That's just the physical laws of the universe. And yet it's not. I've seen people overcome just unbelievable fears that you would think that no one else could do, and do it all through this exquisite power of the mind, of your thoughts. And so happiness or fulfillment or enjoyment or whatever, if you get nothing else, get this really clear for yourself, that they have nothing to do with the circumstances of your life. It's not relevant. It's not even an issue that you ought to be bringing up. Over and over you'll hear, yeah, it's easy for you to say that you can be happy because, and then they'll list all the reasons why somebody else can, and then to come up with, these are all the reasons why I can't be happy. And this list will be very, very long indeed. Never ever once saying, well, the reason that I am not happy is because I don't bring happiness to what I'm doing. It's because I'm looking for happiness as some external thing that is going to come to me. It's like what Ike says, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And happiness is the way is something that some people have all of their lives. It's something that I have had as long as I can remember, and it's the thing that I can remember my mother tells me about when I was an infant, when I was just like 2 years old, before we were moved away for a while, and when we came back, and throughout all of my teen years and so on, that I was always someone who knew how to make other people laugh and how to enjoy life, and would always look at the bright side of things rather than the negative side.
Now imagine this, that if a thought of shame or a thought of fear or a thought of guilt creates a muscle reaction in which you can't move your arm, imagine what it's doing to your heart, which is a strong muscle, isn't it? If you go around all day with thoughts of shame and guilt and fear and worry, what's happening to your heart? You are weakening your heart. You are literally sending energy that is disempowering you. Whereas if you're thinking thoughts of love and connection and spirit and God, you are strengthening your heart. Imagine your kidneys. Imagine your liver. Imagine the joints in your body. Imagine your eyes. Imagine every single aspect of this thing called your body, and understand that every single thought that you have impacts it in a way that either makes it empowered or disempowered. And so too are all of the substances that we put into our bodies. You take a bottle of scotch and you put it up next to your solar plexus, and you push it into your solar plexus, and you will not hold your arm up even with one finger, because scotch, pure alcohol whiskey, no dog, if you pour scotch on his dog food, will ever have anything to do with it. They'll look at it and you must be kidding me. And by the way, that's the same reaction you had the first time you tasted it. Woo! What is this? And you spit it out like it's what? It's poison, isn't it? And every time we have one, we send a signal to the rest of our body that it is going to be weakened. Okay, if everything is energy, and if every thought that we have impacts or empowers us in some way, I've always said that if you understand that what you think about is what expands into the physical world, then after a while, you'll start getting real careful about what you think about. Real careful about what you think about. And when you start having these thoughts, when you change your thought, when you shift your thought from one of anguish, self-pity, depression, worry, fear, and particularly shame, when you shift that thought in the instant, and when people say, yeah, but how do I do it? I don't know how you do it. You just do it. If I say to you right now, I want you to think of a very unhappy thought. I'd like you to picture a dog that has just been hit by the side of the road, and it's a German Shepherd, and it's brown and black, and it's got blood trickling out of its mouth, and it's lying there on the side of the road. Is there anyone that can't do that? You can see that picture, can't you? Okay, that's a very disempowering picture. So let's change it. Change it and shift it to a bouquet of roses, red roses with that white baby breath or whatever they call it in back of it, and the greens coming behind it, and 12 beautiful long stem roses, each of them going out in a little bit of a different direction. And is there anyone who can't do that? All right, how did you do that? You tell me. You just did it. You just did it. You just do it. And no one can explain how. No one can explain the mechanics behind it. Even the greatest neurosurgeon in the world can't explain the mechanics behind. You just change your thoughts. You train yourself to think in a different way when confronted with and knowing that your thoughts are on anything that is going to disempower you. Or surely the presence of love will correct my perception that I have a problem. You just change it. And of course, you also change what you put into your body. You decontaminate your energy fields. You don't allow yourself to consume foods, substances. And if you want to know whether a substance works or doesn't work for you, even if you want to check your vitamins, or if you want to check anything that you might be taking, just have someone stand in front of you, put your arm out with no watch on it, because a quartz movement will interfere with this. It has energy of its own. And ask them to put their one hand on your right shoulder, and their other hand with two fingers, the forefinger and the next finger, and just have them to push down until you resist as strong as you can. And then with your right hand, take your vitamins, or take your food, or take your liquor, or take your cocaine, or take whatever it is that you might find yourself addicted to or practicing, and push it into your solar plexus, and then ask that person to push down on your arm. And if your arm goes down with very little resistance, it's disempowering. And if it stays up, it's empowering. Hawkins did a study with 1,000 people, and he put 500 envelopes of aspartame and 500 envelopes of pure vitamin C, and 100% of the time, every single person in the audience, when they paired up, the aspartame computed weak and the vitamin C computed strong. And yet we fill ourselves with this stuff.
Much of what we think of when we think of ancient wisdom, or the wisdom of the ages, is something called enlightenment. We all want to be enlightened. Everybody wants to reach this exalted level of feeling blissful in their lives. And there's a wonderful Zen proverb that I used in this writing that I'd like to share with you. It's very simple. It says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Period. Now, what this means to me is that enlightenment doesn't mean that our problems are going to go away. It doesn't mean that we're going to have to stop chopping wood and carrying water. We're going to have to stop working and we can just sit around and contemplate our navels for the rest of our lives. It has to do with how you approach what it is that you do, what your belief about it is, what your inner world, what that insular Tahiti tells you about what it is that you're doing. One of the things I learned from listening to so many of these great teachers and these great people is how to become the witness to your life. How to not so much identify with the stuff that is going on. You're always going to chop wood.
There's always going to be problems. You know, we're never going to end marital strife. There's always going to be things that we're going to disagree on. We're not going to end financial difficulties, struggles that we go through. Those kinds of things are just a part of the human condition. We work, we carry water, we chop wood, we do these kinds of things. But it's not like you're going to find enlightenment. There's a Talopa, who was a 10th century Sufi, who said that enlightenment means to have a mind that is open to everything, but attached to nothing. Open to everything, but not attached, detached from all of the outcome, from all of the stuff that's going on out there. And if you can learn how to cultivate just that one simple thing, to start to watch, to start to notice, to start to become the observer in your life. And even though you can't separate them, there is a oneness to all of it, of course. But when you start to stand back, and I was saying, you know, you really are doing something pretty silly right here, and you're getting it, and it's like, poor Wayne, what a slob he is. I mean, he can't even fix a simple. I mean, I realize this, but I'm able to watch it and laugh about it. And as you're able to do this, you start to cultivate more of an attitude of, there's more to me than the pettiness that is going to be the problems that I'm going to encounter. And in our culture, in our world, we see an enormous amount of rage. We see people who are so identified with all of the stuff out there that has happened. And so many people don't know how to go here and get quiet, get peaceful. One of the people that I wrote about in this book was Blaise Pascal. Blaise Pascal was a great philosopher, but he was also a scientist. You had to remember Pascal's law, and you had to read about pressure and learn about all of that stuff in your physics class or in your chemistry classes or whatever. But he was also a great thinker. And he said, all of man's troubles stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone. We don't know how to get quiet. We don't know how to get peaceful. We don't know how to go within and summon that force within us, our connection to our source. Because so many of us are separated from our source through the ego, through this identification with all of the stuff that's out there happening. And so many of these teachers spoke about this quality of the soul, this quality of spirit, this quality of being more than just what you notice, more than what you observe. So, to me, there's something called mastery, living at the highest level. You have to surrender the little mind to the big mind. You have to, as they say in the recovery movement, anybody who's ever recovered from addictions, and today I am a camel, and a camel is an animal who starts every day out on his knees, and he ends every day on his knees, and he can go 24 hours without a drink. And there was a time when I didn't. And the way that I got past that in my life was not through any great discipline or even any great wisdom or even any great unconditional love. It was through surrender. Letting go and what? Letting God. And whatever God means to you. You got to get your ego out of it. And you've got to have an overriding spiritual understanding that you allow this energy to flow through you. And you just go with that.
How we heal our energy body by this enormous feeling of being loved. She said that when I came back, what I realized was that all I had to do was treasure my magnificence. Those were her words. I love those words. Treasure my magnificence. I mean, those of you who have heard Louise Hay speak over the years, you know, she always talks about look in the mirror and just say, I love you. Now, it sounds so simple, and sometimes people think, and Louise often says that, I'm a simple woman, just a simple woman with a simple message. And the simple message is, just love yourself. But listen to what she says about this. She said, so if someone's life was not working for them, how would you suggest they turn it around? She said, one of the most powerful things I got from my NDE is how loved I am. Unconditionally loved.
So now I continue to love myself unconditionally. I would strongly suggest practicing unconditional self-love. Remember, I said that the universe is only a reflection of me. If I am frustrated with the way life is working, for me, it is futile to change the external elements without looking at what's going on internally. A lot of us are very negative towards ourselves. We are our own worst enemies. The first thing I would say is to stop judging yourself and to stop beating yourself up for where you are in your life right now. If I'm finding that I am constantly frustrated with people and judging them, it is because that is how I am internally treating myself all the time. I am only expressing outward my own inner dialogue to myself. The more I love myself unconditionally, the easier it is for me to see beauty in this world and beauty in others. If I can love myself and not judge myself and see my own perfection, then I will automatically see all these in others. And the more I love myself, the more love I will have for others. It's not possible to love another more than you love yourself. Contrary to popular belief that it's selfish to love yourself, that is just not true. We cannot give away what we do not have. No matter where you are, it is only the culmination of your thoughts and beliefs up to that point, and you can change it. She says, remember, I reversed my cancer at the 11th hour. Even when the doctor said it was too late, it was still not too late. So the first thing is to realize that it is never too late to do something or change anything. It's important to see the power that the present moment holds in turning your life around. If you believe in things like attracts like, then the absolute best way to attract what's best for you is to love yourself to the point where you are filled with love and will only attract to your life everything that confirms this belief about yourself. It's actually very simple, really. And she finally concluded this: when you realize your own magnificence, you will only attract magnificence into your life. That's how I look at it. And that's what she learned in her near-death experience. That she said, I didn't come back from that and think that I had to be a loving person, because that involves having to do something. She said, I had to come back and be love. Be love. Patanjali, the great Indian teacher back in the 3rd century BC, said, when you are steadfast, steadfast means you never slip. He said, when you are steadfast in your abstention of thoughts of harm directed towards yourself and others, that all living creatures will cease to feel fear in your presence. That's what St. Francis was. That's why he could talk to the birds and to the wolves. When you're steadfast, when you hold that energy within you. When they ask her at the very end of this long interview, they ask her, and the fact that this was just sent to me by somebody, and now this has become not only a friend, but a colleague and an author at Hay House, I am beyond thrilled. They said, if there was a message or a lesson from your near-death experience that you wish everyone could know or understand, something that you wish you could shout out from the rooftops, they said, what would it be? Now remember, a woman who was dead and now is cancer-free. I would want everyone to know that every part of you is magnificent. Your ego, your mind, your intellect, your body, your spirit, your soul, it's who you are. A beautiful product of this universe's creation. Every part of you is perfect. There is nothing to let go, nothing to forgive, nothing to attain. You already are everything you need to be. We make it so complicated, but it's not. If a religion makes you feel lesser than God, then you have either misinterpreted or it is not doing a good job of teaching you the truth. If a guru or a teacher or a master makes you feel that you are not yet enlightened and still have more to learn, release or let go of before getting there, then they are not doing a good job of teaching you who you are or you're misinterpreting them. Most of our suffering stems from our feeling less than. We are not less than anything or anyone. We are complete. The only thing you need to learn is that you already are what you are seeking to attain. Just express your uniqueness with abandon. That's why you are made the way you are, and that's why you are in this physical world. That's what she learned from her brush with death. And now is out there not only writing about it, but telling people that it is in your magnificence. The best example I can think of, she said, is to imagine there's a huge warehouse, which is dark, and you live in this warehouse with one flashlight. Everything you know about this warehouse is seen through the light of this one small flashlight. Whenever you want to look for something, you may or may not find it, but it does not mean that things do not exist. It is there, but you just haven't flashed your lights on. If you can only see what your light is focused on, then one day someone flicks on a light switch, and for the first time, you can see the whole warehouse. The vastness of it is what you can now see. It's almost overwhelming. You can't see all the way to the end, but you know there is more than what you can see. But you do see how all the products are lined up in all the shelves, and you notice just how many different things there are in the warehouse, which you never noticed, never even conceived of having existed. Yet they do, simultaneously, with the things you know. Those are the things your flashlight has been able to find. Then, even when the light switch goes back off, nothing can take away the understanding and clarity of your experience. Even though you are back to one flashlight, you now know how to look for things. You know what is possible. And you even know what to look for. You start viewing things differently. And it is from this new springboard that your experiences in life start to happen. And so I find that in my daily life, I'm referring to different aspects of my experience at different times. And I'm understanding things in a different way and knowing things I did not know. And what happened for Anita when she went into this near-death experience, this miraculous thing that occurred for her that no doctor can comprehend or even figure out. I'm going to share more with you because it's just so astonishing, and she is such a light in my life. Just talking to her and being honored to present to her, or present to the world rather, what it is that she learned. She says this: I saw all people as energy, and depending where our energy level was, that was the world we created for ourselves. The understanding I gained from this was that if cancer was not in our energy, then it was not in our reality. If feeling good about ourselves was in our energy, then our reality would be positive. If cancer was in our energy, then even if we eradicated it with modern medicines, it would still come back. But if we cleared it from our energy, the physical body would soon follow. None of us are as real or physical as we think we are. From what I saw, it looked like we are energy first, and physical is only a result of expressing our energy. And we can change our physical reality if we change our energy. Some people have mentioned I use the term vibration. For me, personally, I was made to feel that in order to keep my energy vibration level up, I only had to live in the moment. Enjoy every moment of life and use each moment to elevate the next moment, which then elevates my future. It is that moment of elevating your energy level that you can change your future, like I did with my test results. It sounds very simplistic, but it felt very deep when I was experiencing and understanding it. That idea that we can change our future, that just so jumps out at me. Now, this is a woman who died. All of her vital organs shut down. She reported afterwards what the doctors were saying in rooms down the corridor to her husband. Okay, so she was seeing that, and from this place where this miraculous thing took place, because this is a journey about miracles. This is what this whole trip is about. It's about experiencing the miraculous. That what she discovered is what I was telling you about yesterday or the day before, is that these bodies that we're in are always changing. So therefore, they're not real. The one that you were in when you were 10 isn't real. The one that you were in when you came into this room won't be the same as the one you leave. It's not real. That all of this, as hard as this is for us to accept, is illusion. Now, I know that it's real in the sense that you believe in your senses. And your senses tell you, look, I can see it, I can touch it, I can smell it, it's real. But that's because you, me, all of us, have become so conditioned by the validation of something through our senses that we think that what we experience in our imagination is really the illusion. But it's not. Because as William Blake said, everything that now exists was once imagined. Which means that anything that you would like to have exist, you must be able to imagine. Your imagination, again from William Blake, to see the world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wildflower, to hold eternity in the palm of your hand, and infinity in an hour. We're all led to believe a lie when we see with, not through the eye, which was born in a night to perish in a night, while the soul slept in beams of light. The imagination.
You know, there's a list out on the internet of the 100 most spiritually influential people alive. Have you seen this list?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have. Yeah. You and I are going to have a talk here. So they have the 100 from the top to the bottom, and this is where the ego and the spirit are just so, it's just such an interesting thing. Because you're listening right now to the third most spiritually influential person alive. That's me. And that's my ego. Isn't that great? Thank you. And there's 2 people ahead of me on this list. Now my spirit says, you're not any better than anybody else. You're just connected to God like everyone else. Why would you even think that? And then the ego just is tapping me on the shoulder and said, I know you can take those 2 guys ahead of you down. So the number 2 spiritually influential person alive, according to Watkins, this list, is the Dalai Lama. And the number 1 spiritually I can't even say it, spiritually influential person alive is Eckhart Tolle. So now I don't know whether we should get together and go after the Dalai Lama and then maybe we can arm wrestle. But it's that funny thing, it's all the time, because I use it on my kids all the time, you know. I even said to my ex-wife, you know, in your wildest dreams, could you ever imagine that you were married to the 3rd most spiritually influential person alive? She said, they didn't call me. And she said, I don't know how to break it to you, but you're not in my wildest dreams. But I think that's interesting that you, and I just found out about that list. The day I found out about that list, I got a call from Eckhart Tolle saying, would you like to, we're going to come to Maui, we'd like to do a conference together. And I thought, this is my chance, I'm going. I love you, man, I love you.
This is, the concepts like that come floating into your mind. I saw it also. Somebody sent me this list. These concepts have to be, when they come in, they have to be dropped like hot potatoes. Because if you hang on to it, at that moment, the spirit gets obscured. If you think you are somebody who is somebody, immediately that would be the denial of the reality of it. So the art really is and it's tricky because I've seen it happen to other spiritual teachers, some were able to drop the hot potato when people came with beliefs and projections about them. And I've seen others who took it on board and became burdened by some self-concept that others were projecting onto them. This is particularly more likely to happen if you live in an ashram and you're surrounded only by people who think you are the greatest. Then it's very easy to slip into that and start to believe in some concept of who you are,
Right.
which immediately obscures the power of spirit.
Yeah, it's so true. Do you find, personally, Eckhart, that your opportunity to serve literally strangers, whatever, I mean, people, you almost like see opportunities to be God, to, you know, I mean, how do you define, I mean, I always use the poets because I do a lot of poetry myself. Hafiz said, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Just think what a love like that can do. It lights up the whole world. And I have found that people who are needing something that I have to give them keep showing up. And it's such a joy to give away, to serve, whether it's advice, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's clothes, whatever it might be. I mean, does that happen for you?
Yes, all the time. That's, I can see, by the way, in your eyes, we met for the first time, was it 10 years ago at Omega?
Right.
Very briefly, and you were a lovely being then, but now I can see perhaps the physical challenge that you are facing perhaps did that. It eroded your ego, and there's in your eyes there's a wonderful this love and tenderness, and I believe the grace that came through the illness, that came into your life through that.
I can't tell you how many sick people that I've been able to help that have just sort of shown up for me. And when I just did this television special, which will air all over the world for years and years, and it feels like such a, even just to be here and to see these faces and to know that out there that people are going to be touched by. I mean, we got a world full of cancer, we got a world, and it's almost all from fear. I mean, and the Course says always, there's only fear and love, and everything that is fear cannot be love, and everything that is love cannot be fear. So you get your choice, and it seems to me we're talking about sending fear out of our lives and judgment, and, in the I Am discourses it says that if you can remove judgment, criticism, and condemnation towards any of God's children, I believe that means the planet as well, then that's when you will be able to manifest for yourself the life that you desire. As soon as you can rid yourself of those three things, judgment, criticism, condemnation. Yeah.
Yes, which are all thought forms.
Right.
That in itself would be enough. But of course, the deeper implication of that is that you can remove yourself from identification with those thought forms, and so you can be the awareness rather than the thought form. Otherwise, if you say, I mustn't judge, you can still be stuck in the mind. I must love my neighbor as myself. No, you have to step out of the thought form so that you can be present with your neighbor. Give your neighbor means anybody, give your neighbor complete and full spacious attention, and that's the love arises out of that.